You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
TIAA is on a mission. Why? Because 54% of Black Americans don't have enough savings to retire. So in collaboration with big-name artists like Wyclef Jean, TIAA released Paper Right, new music inspiring a new financial future. With 100% of streaming sales going to a nonprofit that teaches students how to invest. Stream Paper Right now and help close the gap.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the podcast. Happy 4th of July if you're in America and supporting the birthday of our wonderful, weird nation. As this podcast drops, it's July 3rd, so tomorrow will be the 4th, so I hope you're staying safe. Don't blow yourself up with anything. Enjoy yourself some barbecue, maybe a beer or two, and relax a little bit if you can. But also, be safe. Please be careful. And enjoy this podcast episode. Today, I'm talking to Ben Dudley. Ben is in charge of running an organization called Free Guitars for Kids. You probably figured that out by clicking on this episode. I met him here at NAMM, and he is local to me, so I had him come by for this episode. And I wanted to have him on primarily because I got to thinking about free guitars for kids. Not just the organization, but the concept of it. And I got to thinking about how a large portion of the people on this podcast had some sort of gift to get them started on their musical career, whether that was a free guitar, maybe it was piano lessons. It was something that they, as a child, would not have otherwise had access to. And I realized that a lot of people do not have access to the tools to get them started on their musical journey. And I thought, wow, that applies to me too. If I hadn't had family that was into this stuff, I never would have gotten started. You wouldn't be hearing this podcast right now. And I thought, what a cool thing that they're doing. It seems really obvious on the surface, but it can actually be a real game changer for the future of music. I know that sounds a little bit over the top, maybe a little bit bigger than it seems on the surface of it, but seriously, think about it. Think about how many musicians got their start with free gear or free access to some sort of equipment. And that's exactly what his organization provides. So I really wanted to talk to him. I wanted to get that message out there, wanted you to be aware of it, and hopefully you enjoyed this episode. I think he has an interesting story. I think they're doing something very cool, and I think you will enjoy this conversation. So without further ado, let's get into this episode with Mr. Ben Dudley. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast, the show about guitar stuff, occasionally, sometimes. I'm your host, Blake Weiland. With me today, I have Ben Dudley from Free Guitars for Kids. What's going on, dude?
Hey, man. Thanks for having me. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're here hanging out in the Shred Shed. We're doing another in-person interview, which has been it's been happening a little more recently. Last time I had a chef in here.
Did he cook anything?
Cooked up a lot of nonsense.
There you go.
That's what we do best.
No, man. I don't know why more people don't come to the Shred Shed. This place is fantastic.
I don't want everybody here.
You don't let the secret out.
I don't want everybody to be showing
this
up.
This place is terrible. Don't come here.
It's awful. It's a terrible place to be. I don't spend all my time out here on purpose.
No, everybody needs a Shred Shed. This is fantastic.
Yeah, you've got a Shred Shed.
I do. And I just call it the Shed, but I'm probably going to have to steal your name because this is too good to call it the Shred Shed. But during the pandemic, it was one of those things where it's like, I need a place to go. And I think my wife was like, you need a place to go. And so we just got a tough shed and then had it built out and soundproofed. And so I've got my guitars and drums and amps and pedals and all kinds of fun toys out there.
See, it's the way.
And every day I go to work.
That's right. I got to go to work.
I got to go to work.
I'll be working out there for a while doing productive
work things,
productive work stuff,
checking the email.
Yeah, it is kind of weird sometimes. I'm like, because of what I do, and I'm sure you can relate to this in some ways, like work doesn't always feel like work. So sometimes getting the separation is like, oh yeah, I really probably should stop.
Oh, right. Yeah, no. it'll be like 9 o'clock at night. You're like, oh, I'm still in the shed. I guess I should go in and feed the kids dinner.
No,
No.
like midnight.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, that's before I go back out to the shred.
okay,
Yeah,
good.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's not just me.
Yeah.
I definitely go in, put the kids to bed, come back out to the shred shed, and we'll see what happens from there.
Oh, that's the fun. And I got the these LED lights that can change to like a million different colors.
I got some of those too.
Man,
They should be on right now. What am I doing?
I don't know. Well, that's okay. But I tell you, at night it's pretty fun. You can get it like depending on the mood you're in. It's like, oh, let's go green tonight. Let's go,
Yeah, you can kind of see them. They're on the conduit there.
Oh, there you are.
Which is great audio podcasting is when I point at stuff that people can't see and say, look at that over there.
Look at that. So what we're looking at for those of you who are not here.
Well, dude, I wanted to get you on. We went and had pizza the other day where we both said we're not going to eat this whole pie, and then we did.
You're not supposed to tell. It was so good. That was delicious. What was that place called?
Mi Familia.
They need a shout out. They make a really nice pizza.
They're one of my favorite places. They really changed my whole perception on pizza when they opened up.
Yeah.
That's when a lot of people, and I can kind of understand this sentiment to a degree. Of like, all pizza is good. And I'm like, all pizza is good, but there are levels to this.
Yeah, that's kind of like saying that every guitar is the same. It's like, no, that's not true at all. Like my wife's people I know are like, why do you need more than one guitar? I'm like, why would you only have one guitar?
Right.
It's like there's so many different varieties and flavors of pizza, and man, there's a place in Portland that I just love, and they make this cornmeal crust pizza. So it's like deep
What's
dish.
the name of it?
Dove VV.
I've heard of it. I've never been there.
Oh, that's where we're going next.
Okay.
Yeah, it is so good. But it's like really unique to this type of crust, and we've fallen in love with it. So
that sounds money.
It is money. It's really cool. It's really good.
I've not had that before.
Yeah.
And that needs to change. So I'll go there. Then we'll go to Demos, which is one of my other favorite Portland places.
See, never been there either. So
yeah, I love Demos.
Did we just become best friends?
Like, I think so. I haven't ate lunch yet, so this is really.
I know. I think that's a problem. It's like you're like, let's do a podcast at 12 o'clock. I'm like, oh, that's lunchtime.
This is the most Portland thing ever. I'm going up to McMiniman's Edgefield after we get done with this.
Are you going to? Who are you seeing tonight?
No, I don't think there's anybody playing tonight.
Okay.
So the ladies in the family have been trying to get up there and do like a ladies spa day for my mom's birthday since January, when was my mom's birthday was, and they haven't been able to do it.
And it's only it's middle of May, so you're close.
Yeah, we're close enough. So they finally are going up to do that today, and us guys are traveling up afterwards to go eat burgers or whatever.
There you go. Have you ever done the little par 3 golf course there? That's pretty fun.
No, I'm terrible at golf.
Yeah, but par 3, it's like.
No, see, this is the thing, and I don't remember if we talked about this or not, but some of the listeners know this. I'm a Cyclops, so when I hit the golf ball, it's gone.
Oh,
I can't see where it went.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Like even on a par 3, it's tough.
Just
I can hit it.
Yeah,
I'll probably make some divots, but I can hit it eventually.
Okay.
But then I'm like, where'd the ball go? It's gone.
That's a problem.
It's a big problem.
Yeah.
Plus, I was terrible before.
But now that you're blind,
now that I'm half blind, it's even worse.
Okay. So. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe go just have some burgers.
I think I'll just go have burgers. It's probably the best for me. It's good because I was never the biggest golf fan.
Yeah.
But I understand why people do like it.
I've fallen in love with golf over the pandemic, and like I think a lot of people did. I fell down that rabbit hole. I became obsessed. I play all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm slowly getting a little bit better, but I'm still pretty terrible at it. And what I've realized is like, it's just the hardest thing in the world. It's like
so
really hard.
Maybe that's why I don't like it.
I
want things to come easy.
I like to torture myself or something. I mean, somebody was like, if you hit I hit a ball and it'll go 30, 40 yards off where it's supposed to go. And I'm like, how'd it go so far? But they're like, imagine driving 90 miles an hour and someone tugs on the steering wheel, like just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to go pretty far off pretty quick.
Yes.
Right? And that's kind of what happens with golf is like, unless you just are perfect, you spray it everywhere. And so
it's so weird because I remember I have some very specific memories with golf. Probably because I haven't done it that many times, but I remember years ago, this is a long time ago. I was underage. That's how long ago it was. I was 18. So we went to this company golf thing. I was working at a construction company, and they had
Yeah.
a company golf thing. Everybody show up.
Everybody
Right?
go play.
And they're all like, you got to wear a collared shirt. And I'm like, I look in my closet. I'm like, I've got like nice shirts for,
like dress up,
Yeah.
like button down.
yeah. And I'm like, that's probably not it. And I was like, and I have flannels. So I wore a
You went
flannel.
flannel.
I went
Yeah,
flannel. And everybody
you
was
should.
looking at me weird. I'm like, this is what I have.
That's what I have.
Like, I'm not buying a shirt for this occasion.
Right.
I may never golf again. I'm not buying a shirt. That wasn't the main thing, though. The main thing was me and my buddies, like all of the like teenage guys that worked there, all kind of like rode together in the car.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
'cause
Out having fun, dorking around.
all the older guys went one way, blah, blah, blah. One of the guys' dads worked there. Like he was the boss or a boss. And so I was with me and my friend, and we're in the car like, woohoo, this is a great time. We're golfing. This is,
Yeah.
And the drink lady comes around, and she's like, what do you guys want to drink? And I was like, oh, what do you guys got? And she's like, oh, we got Dr. Pepper, we got Sprite, we got, which I'm used to. I'm
Sure.
like, okay. And she's like, and we got Bud Light, and we got Widmer Brothers, and we all just kind of look at each other like, look over our shoulder like, your dad over there?
Yeah.
Like, well, yeah, I'll take a beer. Yeah, give me a Widmer Brothers Hefeweizen.
That's hilarious.
And so we're all just kind of like these kids, like looking over our shoulder.
Sneaking your beers.
She totally, I think because we were with the construction place.
Yeah, just assumed
we didn't
you
look.
were.
We didn't look of age.
Yeah.
But I think she just assumed like, oh, there must be.
Private event.
Yeah. Like, go for it.
I mean, that's a good cart girl right there.
She was real nice. Very specific memory of mine.
That's awesome.
My first, like, it wasn't my first beer, but it was my first like public beer.
Okay.
Like one I
fair
didn't
enough.
have to totally hide. I had to look out for the old man, but I wasn't like hiding it, behind a dumpster somewhere.
Right. That's awesome. Oh man.
Oh,
That's a good story.
it was a good time. I wonder if I've told that before. I'm not sure. I say a lot of things on the internet.
Well, you do a lot of podcasts.
I do a
That's
lot of
good stuff,
podcasting. But hey, this isn't about me. This is supposed to be about you. I want to know more about you, and I brought you on specifically because I think obviously free guitars for kids. We met at NAMM. What you do is in the name, right? But I want to know the full story. I want to know your story, and I want to know the story of the organization. And I just thought it would be cool to get you on here to tell people about it, because when I first heard about it, it just made all the sense in the world to me. Almost everyone that I know, everybody that I've interviewed on this podcast, for the most part, got their first guitar as a gift.
Yeah.
There maybe are some exceptions to that, but in my mind, everyone's like, oh yeah, my dad or my grandpa or so-and-so.
Somebody gave them
their first guitar, most likely. That was certainly the case for me.
Do you remember your first guitar?
Yeah, they're right over there.
Oh,
so that acoustic that has one string on it was my first that was my own. And my grandpa and grandma got that for me for Christmas. But my first like real guitar was that red Les Paul Special there.
Oh, that's so pretty.
Yeah. I have a picture of the day I got it and the day I opened the case. I think I put it on Instagram before, but it's like, you want to see like a real smile?
Yeah.
Because I was expecting like dad, I knew I was getting an electric guitar, but dad was, we didn't have a ton of money. So
right.
Something with Gibson on the headstock was not what I was expecting.
Yeah.
No, I was like, I'll probably get, some lower grade Ibanez or anything would have made me happy.
Right.
But I open up, I see a Gibson. My brain about melted.
Yeah.
So, but they got a smoking deal on it.
Oh, that's so cool though. But like, you can almost like, you remember everything about that moment. Right?
Every little bit.
Yeah. That's exactly. So I really appreciate you bringing us on. And I do think like the people that listen to your podcast they're like guitar folks. Like they're going to think this, I think they're going to resonate with what we're trying to do. But so we're a nonprofit, and like you said, our name is Free Guitars for Kids. So we really believe that every kid should have the opportunity to experience the joy and the tangible benefits of owning a musical instrument. And there's just a lot of kids that don't have access or the funds to do that. They don't, and so it's not even a thought in their minds, a lot of them, because it's just the money part of it is impossible. Or maybe they don't have family members who that's kind of been something that's been passed down. So they just don't even think that's something that they can do. And with the decline of money that's going into music education these days, there's just access and availability for so many kids across the country is so limited. So what we're trying to do is stand in the gap and partner with companies and with people who are like, look, I've got, a couple of guitars, or maybe I bought one time and I thought I was going to learn to play, but I'm not going to learn to play anymore. It never took. So I would love to donate this guitar to you. So we're both collecting used guitars. Like that's something we want to do. And then we've partnered with companies like Fender and Gibson, and they've been able to give us guitars and got us deal on guitars for kids. And so we're just working with nonprofits across the country to try to get guitars and start music programs. It's been really fun.
Well, I mean, it's such a thing, right? Because not everybody who picks up a guitar for the first time sticks with it. Most people don't, right?
Right.
But so where do those instruments go? Most of the time they end up in the corner somewhere, not doing anything.
They sit in a closet.
But somebody will probably resonate with that instrument, most likely.
Oh, 100%.
If it's a decent playable instrument, which that's the other great thing about today versus like when you and I started, is a Squire today is not what a Squire was when we were growing up.
Yeah.
No.
Absolutely. No. I mean, there's Squires that you can't tell the difference they're just really well made. Even just entry level like acoustic guitars have come so far.
Yeah.
And what we found with kids is a lot of them really their hands are smaller and the body, like a full size dreadnought's just hard to hold, but you get them a 3/4 size guitar and it's like really fits them better. But when I was growing up, I'd never even heard of a 3/4 size guitar, but I knew there was like toy guitars that you could get at like Toys R Us.
Yeah.
But they were junk. Like they weren't even playable. But now a 3/4 size guitar is a pretty decent, like entry level. They're pretty fun little guitars. I enjoy still playing those. Like I write a lot. They're fun to like write songs on. They just give you different sounds. And so I don't feel bad about getting like this to a kid because I know it's such a great entry point for kids.
It is. And I was saying like not everybody who picks one up is going to stick with it or it's not going to resonate. But there are so many of us, I definitely count myself among this, that like it totally changes your life.
Right. Yeah. The trajectory of your life when you get exposed to something, whether it be a guitar or whatever your passion becomes, when you experience that, it locks in. Right. So you've taken it to another level where like you've made this your full-time thing and this is your business, and which is super cool. And then there's artists. And so I think a lot of people think, well, if I play guitar, the only path for me means I've got to be like full-time touring musician and be famous. Right. Yeah. And that is just so not the case.
It's
right.
so
Like
not
that's actually the rare thing. Like there's so many more people that guitar's a part of their everyday that aren't touring professional musicians who their name, right?
Yeah. Well, that's something I've talked about a lot on the show, is that I knew, even though this is like my passion in life is music and guitar specifically, I knew I wasn't going to be touring.
Right.
I didn't want to.
Right.
I hated road trips, like just regular road trips I hate. So those are easy compared to a tour.
Yeah.
Like
it's grueling.
It's grueling. You have to be wired for that,
100%.
or you're not going to make it. And I was not wired for it. I knew that from day one. But I love the studio. I love writing. I love creating sounds.
Yeah.
And I didn't really think there was a place for me in the industry because I thought, oh, I've got to be a musician in the studio on tour. Like that's the only way I can make this work, which that's because that's just what everybody thinks.
Yeah.
And so I've been really passionate about trying to put out there, like, if you want to do something in music, there are millions of ways.
So many. It's
maybe not literally millions, but thousands. Yeah.
But it's so many opportunities to do things. And like, well, I think part of my love for the guitar, for a long time, I thought the only way to get there was I had to make it. And I was in bands and we were trying really hard to make it. And that was all about trying to make it. But then when I gave up on that, like, okay, because I had a taste of it. I got to go on some tours and play in some fun places, but I didn't enjoy it because I was like, this is grueling. The 45 minutes I'm on stage is a blast. The rest of the time is like,
it sucks.
It sucks. I mean, you wake up underground in a bus and you don't even know what city you're in. Like, this is weird. And I'm too people oriented. I want to be around people too much and like the relationship side of it is hard. And so I really respect the heck out of people who make that their living. Like that's that's a calling and they earn it. Like they work hard for it. So I really try to go out and support live music because I know how hard it is. And,
Yeah.
But for me, when I realized and kind of gave up on I want to make it and just started making music for the sake of making music and like just to give something to people, I experienced the most joy I've ever had making music when it was more about this idea of creating something that's a gift.
Yeah.
And now I get this opportunity to take that experience of generosity and do it for a living where I'm like, I get to give kids a guitar where they can experience that joy. And there's just, I tell you, generosity is infectious. It really is. Once you get to give something away, and as musicians, if people listen to this, I bet you know what this is like. When you create something, you want to share it, right? Like that's what it's all about, is like, and that's what's cool about Free Guitars for Kids is we're in the generosity business.
And how did I know you came into it a little bit later, but how did the organization start?
Yeah, it's a fun story. Our founder, we have 3 co-founders, but the guy, Terry Esau, he was a jingle writer in Minneapolis. He got to work with Prince and with Amy Grant and all these different people, wrote hundreds and thousands of jingles. I don't know if it's 100,000, but like he wrote a lot of jingles back in the day. And then he also loved cycling. He was an avid bicycle rider. And one day he was going out with some buddies on a bike ride and he looked in his garage and saw his kids' old bikes. And then they're just sitting there. And he's like, I should fix these up and give them away. And then that led to, then he was in a bike club. And he's like, why don't we all donate our old kids' bikes? And the next thing you know is he started this nonprofit called Free Bikes for Kids.
Okay.
And Free Bikes for Kids, they collect used bikes, they fix them up, and they give them away. And they have grown this thing over the last 10 years. They're now in 20 cities, and they give away hundreds of thousands of bikes. They just struck a deal with Target where they're going to be giving away like 35, 40,000 bikes with World Vision around the world. Like, I mean, just like really cool stuff. And one of Terry's friends, one of our other co-founders, Damon Danielson, was listening to NPR and they were talking about the decline in music education. It's like, why are there no resources? Like how important music is for kids, why it's so needed, how cognitively it helps, how it helps academically with your math. And then we have this mental health crisis in our country, right? Like that's all you hear about, mental health, mental health, mental health. And kids need an outlet for expression and for their feelings. And so he called up Terry and was like, that thing you do with bikes? Like, why don't we do that with guitars? Like, how many people do we know have extra, like either never played their guitar or they have 10 and they could probably give one away, right?
Right.
And they were like, that's a brilliant idea. Let's go for it. So they launched Free Guitars for Kids right when the pandemic hit. It was like,
really?
It was like, it was like bad timing in some ways, right? It's like they came up with the idea, they got the paperwork, became a 501c3, the pandemic hits, and it just kind of was like, well, we're going to sit on this for a little while. And then they decided to get going and they brought in another guy who they were contracting to kind of help get it started. And he was doing some things, but then they realized like, this is a nonprofit. We need to find somebody that has nonprofit experience, who's been an executive director, who knows how to launch things and bring in a full-time executive director if we're really going to go for it. And I had known Terry from my previous work. I was a pastor in Texas and his daughter went to the church I was at. And so we had formed a relationship a long time ago and we had just stayed in touch. And he reached out to me because he knew I'd been in the nonprofit business in Oregon for the last 12 years. And so a year ago, June 1st, almost a year to the date, I started full-time as the first full-time executive director of Free Guitars for Kids. And we haven't looked back, but yeah, it's been awesome.
Wow. Yeah. For some reason in my head, maybe we talked about this when we were hanging out, but I had it in my head that it'd been around a little bit longer. So it's still pretty fresh. So what you guys are planning on doing, what you've, already shared with me, and we can talk about if you want, it's pretty impressive. But I have to imagine some of that came from the experience of doing the free bikes as well. Like we took what we've learned from this and,
right.
Jump started it.
It's nice to have that history. So like Terry's been doing a nonprofit with this same idea, but just with a different thing, right? So bikes instead of guitars. So he learned a lot of lessons, right? So we don't have to repeat some of that stuff. And then coming into this also, I'd been an executive director and a vice president of a nonprofit for 12 years. And so I had a lot of experience. So I feel like we were able to kind of jump in with a lot of understanding of how nonprofits work, which allowed us then to kind of speed up the process. And then we also just got some wins early on. Like Fender came in really early with us because they liked what we were doing, and they want to give guitars away. And then we had connections to people like Corey Wong.
Mhm.
Corey Wong's the nicest guy in the world, and he's out touring the world, and he wants to spread the love. And he has allowed us I think we've done this at 4 different concerts where we'll bring kids to the show. During the middle of the concert, he stops his set and he starts talking about how he's an ambassador for the guitar. Like he does podcasting, he does all kinds of stuff. Like he's out talking about guitar all the time. And he brings these kids on stage. He gives them the guitar, and he's like, I'm partnered with Free Guitars for Kids, and I want to give you these guitars. And he like talks, and he's got this like sold out audiences.
Wow.
But he turns and he focuses and he looks at these kids and he talks to them for a couple of minutes, and he's just, look, we're your fans now. We're excited for you, and we're going to journey with you. And we can't wait till all these people, like someday you're going to be on stage and we're all going to come watch you play. And it's such a moment that's inspiring to these kids that will stick with them for the rest of their life, and it's really powerful. So we've gotten some wins like that as a nonprofit too, that are just game changers, right? They kind of help launch us.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I mean, those kids, I feel like the kids that are in that situation are even more likely to stick with it.
Yeah.
That's like, whoa,
it's
what a
such
way
a
to get
moment.
a guitar. Like,
it's funny because I think one of the things that I've been really keen on, because people a lot of times they think, well, so what if you give somebody a guitar? Like what happens? Like, and not obviously you mentioned not everybody that gets one plays, right? So if our goal is to give away 1 million guitars over the next 10 years, well, because we want to see 1 million kids' lives transformed. I don't honestly think 1 million kids are going to take up and play the guitar. Even when we give 1 million guitars.
No,
away.
but 100,000 might.
100,000 might.
Yeah.
And the kids who don't maybe stick with it, maybe their brother picks it up or their sister, or maybe they just experience the joy of like, I tried something hard. And now the next time I face something hard, I'm not afraid to try. There's so many life lessons that come from it. And honestly, my own experience, I started playing guitar as a 7th grader, and then I put it down. And then I came back to it as a 10th grader, and I've never put it down. But if I hadn't had access to it, I might not have picked it back up, you know? And so we're trying to give kids that experience and that access to something that they wouldn't otherwise know that they could do.
And that's the thing is like, we get into this world, especially as heavily as you and I have at this point. And it's like, and I've seen a meme floating around the internet, and I can't remember what character's face it is, but it's some cartoon character with like a oh no expression on his face. And it says, when you realize that $200 is cheap in the guitar world.
Totally.
It's like, oh.
Yeah.
And I remember having that realization as a kid. I was like, oh, well, how much is a guitar? What,
right.
And then I found out, cheap was $200. I was like, oh, that's going to take me,
that's
how long to save up?
That's a long time before I can get a guitar. Yeah. No, you're right.
And that's to even see if you like it.
Exactly. And then you got to get lessons and that. So I think what the advantage kids have now versus when you and I were growing up and before that is like YouTube and the access to education on your phone, on just wherever, like to know. I mean, your podcast, I've been chasing tone my whole life and I'm terrible at finding it because I didn't know where to look. It's just I grew up in Texas. And my dad liked the blues. And so I wanted to play rock and roll, but the only tone I knew was like, well, Stevie Ray plays a Strat through a tube screamer out of a Fender amp. It's like, okay, so I'm going to play rock and roll. And what I really needed was probably like a Les Paul and a Marshall like stack, but I didn't know that because I just was, this is what you had access to. But now kids have access to everything, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm dyslexic. And so I had no interest in reading Guitar Player magazine or Guitar World other than what the tabs were. Like you waited every month, you go to the magazine rack to see what tabs were in the back of the magazine because that's the new song you could learn. Unless you wanted to like slow down your record, the vinyl, and try to pick it out, but then your hands might be in the wrong place. Like just the advantage kids have and the access they have to education.
And now you can do that. I can't remember what the apps are, but there are apps to slow down songs, but not slow them down like that.
Right. Where you don't lose the key, right? So you're still playing in the right key, but you're slowing down. Yeah, it's unbelievable. So we really think that giving a kid a guitar now isn't a transactional thing, that it really can be. I preach this a lot. We don't want to be transactional. We want to be transformational. So we give the guitars away in a couple ways. One is we find partnering organizations like nonprofits like Boys and Girls Clubs or Redwood City PAL, Police Activities League, or the Redwood City Library or Portland Public Schools, like wherever we can find that, where they already mentor kids, they have this relationship so that there's something built in where the kid gets that like person to support them.
Yeah.
And so that's a part of the piece of the pie is like so they're already working with kids and we're bringing them literally like an instrument to help them do their jobs better. And they love it. And they're so grateful. So that's a big way that we distribute our guitars.
Well, that's a helpful way to help. Maybe qualifies the wrong word because I think everybody should have access to it, but it's more of like qualifying interest, right?
Sure.
It's like give a kid a guitar and they're like, but I want tennis rackets.
Hi, I'm Vincent, and I'm here to talk about the Mercury X. My dad's always going on and on about how cool Maris is. He really went off on one about the Mercury X the other day. He said something about a 4,800 hertz sample rate and 99 preset locations and 33 banks, and something along the lines of the most advanced reverb pedal ever devised by man? That's all true, but I only care about one thing. This pedal sounds sick. So make sure you check out the Mercury X and all the other fine products at maris.us, as well as fine retailers worldwide. All right, Dad, now can I have my Pocky?
How exactly do artists get their music on Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Tidal, all these services? How in the world do you get your music there? Well, in the past, you had to use something called a record label. But these days, you can use DistroKid. DistroKid is the absolute easiest way to get your music up on streaming services. And it's the most affordable way to do so. Not only do plans start at $22.99 for the entire year, that's less than $2 a month, DistroKid also does not take a cut of your streaming revenue, unlike some other services out there. Even better if you sign up by going to tonemob.com/distrokid. That's tonemob.com/distrokid. One more time, that's tonemob.com/distrokid. You'll get 30% off. That's right, 30% off their already extremely reasonable prices. So go to tonemob.com/distrokid and get your music out there.
I know. Like, just find some random kid off the street like, hey, you want a guitar? You want a guitar?
Well, if you ask the internet, that is what you're supposed to do.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So I've ran into this a little bit, but my friend Ryan Burke from the 60 Cycle Home podcast really ran into this a few years ago. He bought with his own money one of those $99 Epiphone SLs that came out. And he did a few demos on it, made a few videos with it, and then he decided, let's see what this thing can survive. And so he torture tested it and like threw it off of a bridge and like did all kinds of stuff.
Oh my gosh.
And it was a great video. And then the internet came in and was like, you should have given that to a kid.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, I understand that I probably could give this to a kid, but it wasn't that great of a guitar to begin with.
Yeah.
He's like, if I really thought it was going to be anyway. So he does. He gets another guitar. I don't remember. I don't think it's the same one. He gets a different guitar, and he's like, "All right, I will give this to a kid." And he found some random kid walking into a guitar center. I was like, "Hey, you want a guitar?
You want a guitar?
Here you go. Give a guitar to a kid. Cool." Oh, then the internet's mad about that. That's the wrong kid. No, that kid obviously could afford a guitar. He was going into the guitar center. Like, what? He might have been going in for strings.
Sure, we don't know his story.
He might have just been looking.
Yeah.
Like, the point is like the internet will never be happy, but
that part's true. Yeah.
you can never do it right. That's the end of that story. But it is important to make sure that obviously he went to the Guitar Center for a reason.
Yeah, that's where a kid that's interested in music would be, right?
Yeah. So, but what you guys are doing by partnering with organizations that are already talking to these kids and already having these conversations, like, what are you into?
Right.
What kind of stuff do you want to try? That's really it makes the chances of that being an impactful moment in their life a lot higher.
Yeah, and this is one of the lessons we learned from our free Bikes for Kids partners is Terry was saying early on in one of their bike drives, they had a mom pull up in like a Range Rover, and she's like, "Oh, I'm so excited to get bikes for my kids. Like we can take these bikes to the lake house so we don't have to take them back and forth." And he's kind of like, "Oh, that's not what this is for. This is for kids who can't afford bikes. And now you're working on just an extra set. Like that's not why we're doing this." And so for us, like you're saying, like we're really trying to find a kid, not a kid whose mom or dad can go in and buy them 5 Les Pauls or 5 Strats or whatever, but trying to find kids who literally don't have the means to do it. And so by working with these organizations who are mentoring kids in underserved communities, we don't have to
filter
we just can trust them. Like, hey, we know that the kids you're working with can benefit from this, and so we want to bless you with these and go and use them. So the transactional versus transformational is a big thing for us. But going back to that Corey Wong thing, I really believe in the power of moments. So there was a book by Chip and Dan Heath called Power Moments, and in this book, if you like to read, which I'm actually not a reader because I'm dyslexic and blah blah blah, but like I've already confessed. But this book is so cool because they just talk about like how moments can be transformational, and that moment for that kid to come and to be chosen. So like, regardless of whether it's the guitar or not, they were chosen to get this experience. They get to go on stage. They see that all these people that are excited for them. That's a transformational moment for them that will stick with them. They'll remember that it'll be imprinted and embedded on their brains for the rest of their life. Now, I hope and really can't wait for one of those kids someday to like stand up at the Grammys and say, "I got my first guitar from Free Guitars for Kids." Like that's going to be an awesome moment. But I also think it'd be really cool if someday somebody's like, "Oh, you invented this really cool thing." And they're like, "Yeah, somebody believed in me one time, and it was, I got this guitar and I never played it, but like it inspired me enough to know that like I'm worthy. And it gave me the belief that I can go make a difference." And then they go do something cool, like that's what's really fun about it.
I think that's something that it's especially powerful for kids, but I think even adults need to kind of talk about a little bit more. Is I had all these limiting beliefs on myself for a long time. Like I can only do X, Y, Z, right?
Yeah.
When really there's no reason. You just have to try.
You just have to try.
And it might not work. And and I can tell you, this certainly didn't work out in the way that I thought it was going to. Exactly. It's always a weird thing when people are like, "What do you do?" I'm like, where do I start? Like this is
start with the shred shed.
Yeah.
Always.
I'm go and talk to people on the internet in my shed.
Right.
No, it's a difficult thing, but I remember having those beliefs that like, no, I'm not going to be able to do any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And having those moments, especially as I got to do more and more interviews with people that I really had been following for years, and you sit down with them for an hour and you realize that we're all the same.
Right.
We're all the same.
We're all the same. Somebody just put in the time and tried. And obviously like there's people who have talent, right?
Sure.
And there's, but I think there's also people who squander their talent, right? And it's so a lot of times it's about who works the hard and who tries. And I don't know, not to get too cheesy, but like I came from like the coaching world in my previous nonprofits. We did a lot of soccer stuff and people talk about failing a lot. And it's like, yeah, it's the first attempt in learning, right? Like that's what failing means. So like fail a lot, fail often, but fail forward so that you're learning from where you're going. Don't fail backwards,
Well, one of the things I ended up one of the unexpected ways that I got into this industry was through doing more consulting type work. So for the first few years, podcast wasn't really doing, it was a thing, and it's where everybody knew me from, but it wasn't really bringing in a like meaningful income for a long time.
Right.
In fact, for the first several years, it didn't bring in anything, but eventually it did. But the way I was able to quit my job and support myself was through doing consulting work with different companies and brands and things. And sometimes that was brand new people that weren't sure where to even start. And really realizing like trying to get those people to understand that like just a couple years ago, I was in the same position.
Yeah.
It doesn't take very long, but you have to try. And one
Right.
of the things I always try to tell people, I've talked to a lot of people that were in my exact same position, is that you're going to have to do both for a long time. You're going to have to work your job and you're going to have to work on your business on the side because you're going to make mistakes.
Sure.
And it's a lot less painful to make those mistakes while your bills are taken care of.
Then, yeah.
Because you're going to. There's no way around it.
No way.
And you always will, but you're definitely going to initially.
Yeah.
Like, and those could be really painful if you need to get a certain amount of money out of your business every month in those early days. I mean, that's the way that Stringjoy, a lot of people have asked us, like, and you know, I always am unsure how much Scott wants me to reveal, but he's told people this before. People were like, how are you able to do that? How are you able to, because we've said like we didn't make any money for like 5-6 years
to start
at all.
Yeah.
Everything just piled right back into the business. And they're like, how do you do that? He's like, credit card debt.
Oh, right. Yeah.
He's like, I was 24 when I started. I lived with 4 other dudes and
just charged it all.
Could do it and worked a full-time job on the other side. So that's the secret that a lot of people, I think, don't fully grasp is it's if you're starting from zero, you're almost never going to be able to just do that right away. Some people have. I know a few people that have. But most of the time, it starts on the side and you're going to make those mistakes and hopefully you fail forward.
You fail forward. Yeah. And, you know, as you're talking and telling that story, I bet there's people that came along throughout the Stringjoys that, you know, journey or in your journey in podcasting where you get to certain points and then there was like an inflection where somebody offered you something or gave you something and it just gave you a lift to go the next level. Right. And I think for us, that's kind of what Free Guitars for Kids, like kids are on this journey and life's hard right now. And I can't imagine being a kid growing up right now, like for us to be able to come in and offer this generosity and like, hey, we want to give you this guitar. All of a sudden it's like this lift that they might need to just get over a hump or get out of the doldrums or wherever they are. Mm-hmm. That can just be that little spark for them to kind of carry them, keep them going.
It could be a big one.
Can be a really. It could be
a big one. I know for a fact that if I'm just a younger version of me getting a guitar from Corey like that.
Oh, right.
You wouldn't be able to get it out of my hands.
Yeah.
Like there's all day long. Like nope.
I'm
gonna learn how to do these riffs. Like, no way is that gonna stop. Like, and for me, you know, that's not even how it started. I started with my mom's guitar. And she didn't really play it.
Yeah.
Again, she didn't really play it. It was just in her closet.
Right.
So I had all these opportunities. I was just spoiled with opportunities to be able to learn an instrument. And so many kids aren't. And that's why I think it's so important. And I think selfishly, being in the industry, not only is it important for these kids and for, you know, their development early on, it's also good for the industry.
Oh, yeah.
Because if there's no new players.
Yeah. The who are you going to sell a guitar to if you don't have guitar players? Yeah. 100%. Yeah. So I think, and I honestly think that's why, or not the only reason, but I do think that's why we've been able to get manufacturers and companies to jump on with us because they do see this as like, you know, long-term play. They're like, yeah, we're doing good, but also once you get a guitar and you start, if you take to it, you're going to buy more guitars and you're going to want a better guitar and then you're going to want another guitar. And then I'm sitting here looking around on your walls and you got a couple. I got a handful.
I got a handful.
Yeah.
There's not another one coming next week or anything like that.
Oh man. I can't wait to listen for the reveal on what that's going to be. Man.
So yeah, I think I'm trying to remember. There was actually a study done on that. I think it's your average guitar player. I'm probably getting this kind of wrong, but I want to say like your average guitar player had something around like between 5 and 7 guitars, which obviously people like me skew that a little higher.
Sure. Right. But the people who actually play, I would believe that. I think that's probably right. Well, and I won't reveal who, but we were talking to a company that sells guitars, and they said for like every person that buys one, they become about at least every customer ends up being like a $10,000 customer for us.
That makes
over
sense.
the long haul, which makes sense, you know, like, and I actually think that seems low, but
Because guitars are expensive.
oh yeah, I know guitars have gotten expensive.
Yeah. And it's just the amount of work that goes into them. That's what, unfortunately, as good as the lower end models are now,
Right.
you know, they have also came up in price like everything else. But, you know, we looked at getting started with a guitar brand, and it's not to say we never will, but we definitely looked at it for a while and wanted to do all USA, all that, all that stuff. And it was like, whew, these are, there's no way around it. These are expensive to make.
Things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no way to cut corners on it and actually make it a profitable,
right,
thing. It's just like, these are expensive. Full stop.
They are expensive things, for sure.
If you want them to perform a certain way.
Right.
So it's very cool to see that the industry's been, even though it's small, and I think that's what a lot of people who listen to this show know, but a lot of people from the outside looking in don't realize how small the musical instruments industry really is.
Well, I'm still amazed at like the original designs of like the Strat and the Les Paul. Like there's all kinds of tweaks and mods and whatever, but like it's still pretty basic. Like it's kind of still the same thing that it from the original designs. Like how cool is that it's stood the test of time, right? But like it seems like the sky's the limit of what could happen now, especially with all the digital stuff. It's like, who knows what the future of the guitar is going to be.
Oh man, well, what's beautiful about the digital stuff now is, specifically with these kids, is now a kid can get their guitar, say they get it from you guys, and then if they have a computer, which most people do,
or they have access to a computer lab at their school
somewhere,
you
plug into $100 interface, maybe,
right?
Or if you get a used one, maybe even cheaper.
Yeah,
you queue up some of these amps, and those tones that I was chasing back then, I was like, I had no idea how to get them, first of all, but also like once I did realize, like, oh, I need a 5150 full stack to get that. That's what those guys are using. Oh, that's like another, $1,000 whatever dollars at the time.
Like, I don't have that money.
I was like, oh great, I'm never gonna be able to get those sounds. Now you could plug in, you could get any number of plugins, and at least in the recorded sense, sound just like your Guitar Hero.
I know. It's really unbelievable what you can do with that stuff. And I like, there's still something in me that's like old school analog. I want to step on it. I want, and I don't know why. I'm just an old soul, and it is fun.
Yeah.
But I kind of sometimes kick myself going like, but now you can get all that in one box, like the Helix or something that's just like got everything. And, it's unbelievable what tones like is available.
It's so much better too. And I remember, we all remember when the Line 6 stuff initially came out and the pods and whatever.
Sure.
And I remember my supervisor I was working with found out I was really into guitar, and he's like,
yeah,
you can borrow my Gold Top, and like, here, check out this pedal. It has all the sounds in it. And I was so excited to get home because I was like, he knows more about this than I do. And I plugged in and I was like, this does not have all the sounds.
No. Yeah. It's trying to have all the sounds.
It's like, this is terrible.
Right.
And the guitar was really nice. But now that's not really true.
It's not true.
As long as you got decent speakers, or I mean, even if all you got is headphones.
Yeah.
I've been playing the other night. You see those Boss Katana headphones over there?
Yeah.
I have all this stuff out here, and I was like, I only have a couple minutes. I'm just gonna play those real quick.
Yeah.
I don't need headphones out here. I can crank it as loud as I want.
As loud as you want.
But it was just like, let me just play with those.
Let me just play that.
I'm just practicing a little bit. And it sounded good.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's awesome. Like, there's just the access. And I mean, like, going back to what we we're talking about with like YouTube and everything to learn from and what kids have access to. I have high expectations for what the future of music is. And people are always like, there's only 12 chords and you're going to run out of songs. Like, there's so many sounds and so many different variations. And I just can't wait to hear. And I also think kids have things to say. And I think our world right now needs more prophets, if you will. Like, I'm not to get too philosophical on you here, but I think we need to get more guitars in kids' hands because we need to hear from our like Joni Mitchells and Bob Dylans, and we need to hear what kids have to say, because our world needs a prophetic voice, and we need the next songwriters to come along and help steer the conversation, because we're in some weird times, right? Like it's really strange. There's a lot going on, politics and all this stuff, and like with AIs coming, like all of a sudden the AI's taking over everything. It's like we still need to hear from what people have to say, and so that's another real motivation for me. I want to get more guitars in kids' hands, because I think people have things that we need to hear.
We are brought to you today by Sweetwater, specifically the Gear Exchange. You may have heard about this. This is a place where you can go to buy and sell your used gear. Maybe you got a pedal over there that's just kind of collecting dust. Maybe there's something you've been eyeing from the Sweetwater catalog. Well, right now is a great time to turn that unused gear into something you're actually going to use. Even better, if you sell on the Gear Exchange, you can keep 100% of the sale as long as you choose a Sweetwater gift card as your payout method. That is not too shabby, because let's be honest, most of this buying and selling we do is just to fund new gear purchases, and that is a great way to reach a wide variety of customers and keep 100% in your pocket, or rather on your pedal board. So go check out the Sweetwater Gear Exchange and turn that unused gear into something that's actually going to help you write that next huge riff.
Hello there. I'd like to introduce you to your new best friend, the Chase Bliss Audio Lossy. Lossy is a collaboration between Chase Bliss and Goodhertz. And it's meant to give you some control over those weird digital artifacts that come with very compressed audio. You're hearing it right now. All the changes that are taking place are strictly coming from my playing dynamics. I'm just interacting with the pedal and letting it do its thing. In some true stereo goodness. If you'd like some more details about Lossy, I'd invite you to head over to chaseblinssaudio.com. I think you're going to like what you find.
I think that's 100% true, because we tend to get, as guitarists, I think we are naturally a little bit conservative in at least how we view the instrument.
Oh yeah.
It's not like the old one. I want it like the old one.
Totally.
Yeah. Like, how many strings does it have? No.
Yeah.
So I do think that everything that's like, not everything, most things that are new and exciting in music come from a younger generation.
Yeah.
So if it's just people listening to me the whole time, that's not going to like innovate anything, right? Like, I'm just going to,
I don't know.
I'm just
You're right.
I'm gonna make the same old screechy noises I've always made at some point.
Right.
And so what are kids going to come up with? Because they always come up with something new. Just when we think that we've heard it all, something new
comes along. Yeah.
Yeah. And it may be like slightly less groundbreaking or earth shattering than the last new thing. I think it's going to be really hard to top grunge as far as how much it shifted the world of music. But at the same time, we have had other things come along.
Yeah. I mean, the stuff I like, if you scroll around on TikTok or Instagram and you see kids playing guitar now, they're doing stuff where they're using all this delay and reverb, sustain stuff. And they're like, the way they like slide without picking, and they're making all these multiple notes. It's like this whole nother genre of music that like has emerged. It kind of has like an R&B feel, like hip hop influenced guitar playing. And I'm just like, that is a new thing. And it looks hard, and it sounds so interesting to me. Like, totally. And I get so into it. And then I go out and I'm like, okay, now what are those young kids doing? Like, Like, it doesn't sound like that.
No, like,
dang, like,
I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I turn into an old man. I'm like, well, they should just be playing old stuff like me, but
That don't sound like Hendrix.
that's not what we used to do in the shred shed.
Stevie Ray Vaughan didn't do that.
I know.
And I always got, I being the age that I am, it was always kind of weird to me. Like I love Hendrix and I love Stevie Ray Vaughan and I like a lot of that classic rock stuff, and there's no denying the impact that those guys had.
Yeah.
But that's not who I grew up wanting to listen to.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That wasn't it. Like I like as far as old school goes, I grew up listening to a lot of old school country and things like that. But by the time I was like coming of age or whatever, I was fully into like punk and metal, and I didn't care that much about any of that stuff.
Like the pioneers of the electric guitar.
Yeah, it was
like
no,
you respected it and you appreciated it.
I
but
still do.
Yeah.
And that's what I've talked about. Maybe on a recent episode, I can't remember, all this runs together. But when I look at Spotify for the podcasters will tell you what artists people are listening to.
Oh, interesting.
Which is kind of an interesting metric that only they would have, right?
Yeah.
And it's, for me, it's like John Mayer, Jimi Hendrix, like it's people you would expect,
right,
for the most part. And I'm like, that's very interesting because it's not ever who I like. I shouldn't say ever. It's rare. It's rarely that I'm queuing up any of that stuff. I'm queuing up some obnoxious thing that I like.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I'm like I grew up while doing road trips with my family in Texas, and my parents always had, it was like Elvis, the Beach Boys, and then the American Graffiti soundtrack. So that movie has this just really awesome soundtrack with just all these oldie hits, and that was like on repeat for us growing up. And so for me, like I just really love, and like there's been this new wave of kind of like that older style that's kind of come back out with like Leon Bridges. And
I love Leon Bridges.
I'm gonna butcher it. Michael Kiowanga, or what, I can't say his last name, but he did the song. It was the opening to Pretty Little Lies on HBO. It's like Cold Little Heart. Oh man,
I'm not familiar with it.
It's so good. Like, but if you listen to his stuff, he's like this African refugee who grew up I think in London.
Whoa. And
just like was influenced by so many different things, and his music is just phenomenal. And he's a guitar guy, and he like shreds, and but it's like still a throwback to oldies, Marcus King and some of the McKinley James, and like there's just some really good stuff that's like people are still even the Black Keys and that kind of stuff is still like it's roots based blues music, but it's still fresh and young and cool, and people are doing cool stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We live in a, times are weird and things are crazy, and I don't, we've said that a lot over the last 3 years, but for me, I'm definitely like square in the elder millennial category of people. And for my whole existence, I'm like, things have always been weird.
Oh, that's
it's funny. Never not been weird. It's gotten weirder, I would say, in a lot of ways, but it's like, I'm like 9/11 hit, and then it's been weird ever since, man. Like I don't know what normal is.
No, that's a good way to look at it. I'm older than you, and I'm definitely like the Gen X guy, and so things are never like it's always like disgruntled, and we got to deconstruct everything. And so Wilco came along, and it was like,
oh yeah,
this is the greatest thing that ever happened to music.
Wilco,
because they take a country song, and then Nils Klein will come in and like deconstruct this solo that's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard.
Absolutely.
And just the way that they can break something apart and then bring it back together, for me, is just like,
Nels, if you're out there, beautiful. Please come on the show. Please come on the show. Please, Nels, please. I had an experience at a Wilco show that was not unlike any. It was not like I had a unique experience. It was just, I like that band, and my friends were like, come out to the Wilco show. I was like, cool, welcome to the Wilco show. That'll be fun. And I think I about passed out. I was so excited. Not like going there. I was like, this will be fun.
Sure.
And then watching them, I was like,
whoa, what's going on?
My brain is melting.
This is the greatest.
Yeah. It was one of the best concert experiences I ever had. I loved that show. And even now, like, I still love Wilco. I can't say that they're somebody I queue up every week, but that was one of the best concert experiences of my entire life.
Yeah.
It was absolutely mind blowing.
Everybody needs to go to a Wilco show.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Definitely.
And Wilco, if you're listening, you are more than welcome to help us give some free guitars to kids. We would love to partner with you.
Hey.
That'd be so fun.
And Nels, I need you to help me learn how to use my 16-second digital delay. I bought it because of you, and I still am confused by it. But
yeah, no, he's unique and awesome. Definitely, like he's probably my. People ask me a lot, who's your favorite guitar player? And I mention him a lot.
Yeah, that's a good choice.
Cool.
Yeah. You can't go wrong there. That's really great. Well, hey, man, we're getting to the end of the main episode of the podcast. And I know you've been listening, so you've probably been preparing for this. But before we get into the classic questions, there's your chance to take the floor. You can shout out your grandma. You can plug anything you want to plug. You can say whatever you want to say to a few thousand people right now.
Well, no, I appreciate you giving everybody the opportunity to do that. For us, I think I would just say, go to our website, fg4k.org.
I'll be in the show notes, everybody.
Free guitars for kids. Like, we need people. We need you out there to help us. Like, we need volunteers. We need guitars. We need money. And I know that might seem crazy, but like, we have a little fan club we started on our website. It's like, imagine giving $25 a month and all of a sudden you're like, I bought 6 guitars this year, like for kids. Like that's super cool. It's $100 basically for us to get a guitar in a kid's hand. So we need donors. We need people that are connected to people
I'm assuming you need other stuff too, though. Like, especially if they will end up with an electric guitar.
Yeah. 100%.
Cables,
amps, like
gig bags.
Gig bags. Or we were talking about access to connect to the computer. Like how cool would it be if there's these things exist where kids can go right out of their guitar, right in the computer. Like we could set up a lab for a school or for a nonprofit where kids can go in and practice right on the computer and not have to make a ton of noise and where it disturbs
Totally.
everybody. Like there's a lot of fun things that we can do. So if you're listening and you're thinking, wow, free guitars for kids, that's awesome. I want to brainstorm with you about how to get you involved. So my name's Ben. Hit me up and let's get you plugged in literally to helping us give more guitars to more kids.
Yeah. And they're very easy to get a hold of. Trust me. It was very easy. So go to the website. That's in the show notes. You'll see it down there. And yeah. Anybody, I wanted to bring Ben on very specifically to help spread this message out a little bit further. Like, obviously, we talked about our own personal experiences and some fun stuff, but the main point was I wanted people to hear about this because I know me getting a guitar for free changed my whole life.
Yeah.
Completely, 100% changed the trajectory of my life in the most positive way possible. And I know that it will have that effect on others as well. And so that's the main reason I wanted to get Ben on here. So everybody, please go check that out. All right. We're going to move on to the classic questions.
All right. Let's do.
There we go. First one. What is your favorite Boss pedal?
Probably, is it the DD5, like the delay that has the tap tempo?
I think that's the DD6.
DD6.
Yeah. DD6. Yeah.
I love that pedal. I still have it. And then the compression sustain would probably be my close second.
Okay.
Which Nels uses still to this day. But like,
it's a great pedal.
Yeah.
I love Boss.
They're simple. Like,
they're great.
all these buttons now that they're so loud when you click on. I don't understand why more people don't use that type of foot pedal. Like, I'm sure there's a reason.
I can tell you.
Okay,
I can tell you.
Tell me why.
So, Boss was obviously one of the companies, if not the company, that popularized pedals in general.
Yeah.
Just in the form, obviously there were pedals before Boss, but in the form
they
factor,
blew it up.
They blew it up. It's Boss, and that initial design really hasn't changed as far as the compact stomp.
Right.
Like the form factor is the same. If you take one apart, the inside's not the circuit board, but the actual pedal enclosure. It's all the same since 1977 or whatever.
Okay.
Genius. But the thing is a lot of people, especially with the rise of the boutique pedal thing, didn't like the buffers.
Okay.
So you need that. Boss has always used a buffered switching system. I generally have not had any issues with it.
Yeah.
Some people don't like how it sounds.
Okay.
And it's true if you stack a bunch of them up, it can get a little bit weird, especially when they're off. When they're on, I don't think it matters that much.
Right.
But when it's off, It can
you get that buffered signal.
You get a little weird sound.
Okay.
So in the mid 90s to early 2000s, there was a big push to quote unquote true bypass, which essentially is a mechanical switch that takes there's no circuitry in the chain after that. That's what those big switches are.
Yep.
So there was a push towards that. Now, especially in the last 5 years, a lot of those companies are switching to a mechanical true bypass, which is a relay-based system. So you hit the switch and it doesn't actually mechanically go. It actually triggers a relay.
Okay.
And most of the time they're on every company does it a little different, but they're on a very specific time, just like a couple milliseconds. I don't want to speak for designers out there.
But that's the theory behind it.
There's a small amount of delay that is almost imperceptible in between when you step on it and when it turns on or off. And the reason is it's true bypass still mechanically because it's a mechanical relay in there, but it prevents that pop.
Right.
So it's kind of a both situation.
I just got an education. This is like Guitar Pedal 101 probably for most people, but like I just am like almost like a Neanderthal. It's like pedal stamp, stomp on the pedal. Like, so I just want it to work. Yeah. But that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. So
that also explains too, like, tell me, like is it TC Electronic that has the true bypass pedals in there? Like, are they doing that?
Most of the TC ones, I think it's been a while since I messed with them.
It is like a softer pedal. It doesn't make that hard.
So like that origin pedal right behind you.
Yeah.
So if you grab that thing,
this one.
Yep, the green one.
Yep.
You'll notice that's a soft touch switch.
Oh
too,
yeah.
But it's a true bypass switch as well.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So,
man, everybody needs to listen to your podcast because there's so much to learn. So much to learn.
It's stuff that I'm like I'm just so wrapped up in all this that I just assume. I don't actually assume. I just, in my brain, I forget that not everybody's as big of a nerd about this as I am.
Well, again, like when I was learning to play and trying to figure it out, like unless you knew somebody, and I'm just wasn't the engineering type person that like could take a deep dive. I just bought the pedals and daisy chained them all together, and then I'd have all this noise in my signal, and like, why didn't these work or sound good? And so I'm still feel like I'm chasing town. So you know who's going to get to help me build my pedal board?
Ironically, I haven't had a pedal board set up in like 7 years.
Yeah, that's because you just have this red shell.
I just throw them up. Actually, on that vertical board there behind you now. But there you go. It's always changing. And I put that together the other night. Just goes like,
let's play these pedals. Like? Yeah. That's fun.
It's never ending. Anyway, let's get to the final question, and we'll slide over to Patreon and see what kind of weird action we can get into over there.
All right.
So, what is your favorite kind of pizza?
Well, we talked about this a little bit earlier in the show, or like right at the beginning, but I do have to admit this cornmeal crust deep dish Dove VV pizza is pretty amazing.
What part of town are they in?
They're in Northeast Portland, like right off of like 28th and Gleason.
Okay.
And it is just such a unique deal, but it's just loaded down. I like the crust and it's good, but I am a pizza fan. So there's a hard to find a type of pizza I don't like. I like all kinds of pizza.
We used to have one in Portland that I really didn't like, actually.
Oh, no way. Like a type, was it a certain type? Or
no,
just
it was this one location.
Just a location. No, I've had bad pizza. Yeah. There's people that mess it up. But I think like different from style wise, like whether it be Detroit or Chicago or New York style,
a good version of whatever you're into.
I'm game. I'm in. Yeah.
I kind of feel that way too. Like I've said this before on the show, and I don't feel like it's that controversial of a take, but some people think it is. Chicago deep dish style pizza is delicious. Okay. It's very delicious. But to me, it's not what I'm craving when I'm thinking of pizza.
Yeah. It's like a meal. It's a different deal, right?
It's like a calzone, right? Calzone's not a pizza.
Yeah.
But it's pizza adjacent. It's a pizza cousin. It's related.
Right.
But it's not a pizza. So if I'm craving a calzone, I'm craving a calzone.
Yeah.
Which is fine. It's delicious. But if I'm craving a pizza,
this is a controversial take here, right? I mean, you're throwing yourself in.
I know, and I feel the same way about Chicago style pizza. Is like it's delicious. It's awesome. And when I want that, nothing else will do.
Right.
But when I'm thinking, I want pizza.
Like pizza, yeah.
It's not what I'm picturing in my head.
See, and I grew up, and there was this place in Texas that to this day still I would say is like my favorite pizza place. It's called Mr. Gaddy's, and There's very few left, but they had grown all over Texas when I was a kid, and they had the pizza buffet. So it was like,
oh yeah,
soccer game, everybody loads up. There'd be like 15 kids in the back of a Suburban, no car seats, no seat belts, just all roll into the pizza place. We'd go in as all you can eat pizza buffet, and we'd just go to town.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, that stuff was good.
Very nice.
I miss a good pizza buffet.
Yeah. I haven't had a good pizza buffet in a long time.
I know. I don't know that.
Do they even exist anymore?
I mean, I'm sure they do. Somebody's going to have to write in and tell you. Do people write in? I don't know what.
I get emails. Yeah.
There you go.
I get emails. I get DMs.
We need a pizza buffet location in Portland, Oregon.
A good one.
A good one.
Yeah.
I mean, I know one or two, but they're not.
Oh, they're not good.
We're not going there.
Okay, we won't go there. Those ones.
Those are the ones that like, is that pizza? Is that an olive or a bug on my pizza? Yeah. I've done that. I've actually done that before.
Really?
I was about to take a bite of it was like just a cheese pizza, but there was a black olive on it, and I was like, oh, I want to try olives. Like I'm pretty picky, so I was like, I'm gonna try this olive and see what it tastes like. But it was also my last pizza, and kind of it was up by the crust. I was like, this is like the last bite, so I'll try olives another time. And I like go to flick the olive off, and then when I flicked it, all of a sudden it flipped over and there was legs on the olive. And I was like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't try that olive. That's not an olive.
Man, olives are terrible.
Yeah.
These taste disgusting.
Weird. Very salty.
This is a crunchy olive.
Tastes like chicken.
Well, Ben, thank you so much for hanging out. And yeah, let's slide over to Patreon and see what kind of weirdness we can get into. All right, everybody. For Ben, this is Blake. And as always, folks, good luck and good tones. All right, there you have it. There's another episode in the can. Please check out their organization. You can find out more information at the link in the description. I think you're going to enjoy and support the mission. I think we can all relate to getting that first real guitar and how important that was for us as musicians. So please check out Ben, check out the organization, and go to the link in the show notes for all of that. And if you enjoyed this conversation, you're going to enjoy more of the conversation over on Patreon, where Ben and I sat down for even longer to talk about what else? Extraterrestrials and everything else that came up around that. It was a very, very good chat. I think you're going to enjoy it. Ben is a great conversationalist, and we had a very enjoyable time over on Patreon. $5 a month gets you access to all of those back episodes, and that helps out immensely. So please check that out today. Please slide over there if you can. And if you can't, I'd appreciate a share of this episode more than you could possibly imagine. Please share this with somebody. It really, truly means the world to me. Thank you all for everything. Stay safe out there, and I'll talk to you on the internet very soon. One last thing before we totally sign off here. I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.
Do you like to laugh, geek out on music, and learn all about that band or artist who had that one song back in the day, but then seemed to fall off the face of the earth? If so, you need to subscribe to One Hit Thunder. Together with an array of interesting and hilarious guests, we do a weekly dive into one-hit wonders like Eiffel 65's Blue, Krayshawn's Gucci Gucci, EMF's Unbelievable, Delamitri's Roll to Me, Los Del Rio's Macarena, Musical Youth's Pass the Dutchie, and even Patrick Swayze's She's Like the Wind. So are you subscribed to One Hit Thunder or what? As Desiree would say, you gotta be. And as K7 would encourage, you gotta come baby come and join in on the fun of the One Hit Thunder podcast.
Hey, what's up? My name's Lurk, and I'm the host of Lamb Goat's Van Flip podcast. Every week I have in-depth conversations with bands from all over the scene, big and small. We also like to keep our finger on the pulse and showcase up-and-coming bands on the show as well. So come check out Lamb Goat's Van Flip podcast.